Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the XboxEra Podcast. As per usual, I'm joined by the wonderful Special Ed and the philosophical today, Kaironaut. How you doing, guys?
Philosophical, huh?
Yeah, you came out
Only
with some
today?
nuggets.
Very good.
Only
today, huh?
It's a podcast thing, you know. Every other day of the week, you're not philosophical, but today you seem very deep.
Let's go with that.
Let's go with that. Oh man, it's been a crazy week for me. I'm not sure about you guys, but anything exciting happening in your lives in the last week or so worth talking about?
I don't know if exciting is the right word, but I've been on holidays for a couple of weeks, so just been trying to get some gaming in between doing stuff with the kids. That's about it.
That's good.
Sounds good to me. I've had an absolutely crazy work week, so I've barely been plugged into Reset or video games in general. I finished Gears 5, which is nice, so that's done. I'm trying to decide what I want to play next, but I haven't got anything that's like really making me want to sort of jump in and play through it. We did start tackling Horde mode in Gears 5, which there's something like 8 difficulty levels, which is a little bit daunting. So you've got and then everything just like adds like 1.5 health to the enemy, and then they're more accurate.
Yeah, that's right.
They're more damaging, and it gets silly. But I managed to make it like we were playing on experienced, I think, and we got to round 35 before there were 2 wardens. Sheer panic broke out. Everyone started screaming, and then we were all dead. And we were like, wow, that happened. But I do love the addition of perks that you can kind of upgrade through the match to your character to make them do more stuff. But I have to complain about how convoluted the menu is. Like, I was like, I don't want to play as Kate. I was playing as Kate. And I just couldn't find anywhere in the menu that made sense to change my character into a different one. Which sounds crazy to me, right? How do I change my character? You think that would be a fairly obvious solution in there somewhere, but it's just oblivious to me.
I think it's in the customization settings in like the actual options menu.
Yeah,
which is honestly like an entirely like pointless place to put that. They should be in the game mode.
But yeah, I figured that afterwards, and I press the button and I go to customize and I pick another character, and it has like a Horde setup thing. But then it defaults to Kate. And then when you're in the Horde sort of lobby, I'm like, I don't want to play as Kate. But there's no option. There's no like a right bumper, left bumper.
Just switch characters, yeah. And it's totally fine to like complain about that, because it should be fucking obvious.
The complaint is in. I'm very angry about everything.
Very angry. You can tell.
What else have you guys been playing?
Destiny 2, Shadowkeep.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably the only one playing it, because you two are old men. So
do you know, I
don't do Destiny.
I said today, because obviously it's free to play now on PC and stuff. Not the Shadowkeep expansion, but Destiny 2, the base game is now free to play, right? And I said to some friends today, I was like, I might give that a go for the co-op, just to play through the story, and immediately was hit with a deluge of lol, no story in Destiny, etc., etc. I was like, but whoa, I thought Destiny 2 had a narrative with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
It does.
Yes, it does. Right? I mean, I'm not advocating for whether it's a good or bad narrative, but I understand that there is a fairly,
let's just say,
solid, A, B, C.
There's an okay story.
Yeah. Okay.
There's an okay story.
I'm fine forgiving that.
Chapter 1, I'm going to call year 1 chapter 1, and year 2, and it's going to just be all chapters. Okay. So chapter equals year. Chapter 1 was the launch of Destiny 2. And that story is honestly like pretty stock standard. And there's nothing really like special about it. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not really good either. It's just kind of meh. Chapter 2 or Sega was holy shit, was one of the best expansions in Destiny history, and it introduced a lot of story elements, a lot of lore elements. Its campaign was a hell of a lot better than base games. So far, Shadowkeep Chapter 3 is it's okay. It's about on par with. Let's hope someone who's listening in knows what I'm talking about. Destiny 1 Rise of Iron it's basically like that.
Okay.
And I can tell that it was probably because of the fact that the Activision
they're gone.
Bungie buying themselves out of that deal with Activision, thank fucking God, happened really late in the expansion's development. So they had to kind of scramble to fix things in the coming months. So, and try and fit it as much as they could. And obviously the story lacked a little bit. Like, it's cool. Some of the elements are really, really cool. I think it was perfect for the game, the expansion to launch when it did, as in like October, because a lot of the themes and stuff is like very, very creepy, very Halloween-esque, I would have to say.
I did see a video on Eurogamer with, I don't want to spoil it actually, so I won't say it for anyone that's not played through Shadowkeep yet. With a thing, apparently it means something. It's a ship of some kind. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
But
play it.
Apparently it was a huge moment, and I watched the video because I don't care, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's a huge moment if you understand like the story of Destiny and the way the world's unfolding and how the events are progressing.
Are you enjoying it though?
Yeah. I mean, there's something to finally fucking do since like the end of the last season, which I basically got everything done in 3 weeks, and then I had nothing to do for like 2 months.
One of the biggest challenges for games that add content regularly, in that gamers, by their very nature, release days, whatever, play through it all in as quick a time as possible, and it's done. And then you're like, oh, I've got nothing to do.
And it's especially true of like, you're right, of these kinds of games, of MMOs and stuff like that, where you just burst through the content. But it's like, it's good and bad. Bursting through the content is a definitely not the intended design, but it's what's going to happen anyway. Because if people love the game enough, they're going to fucking do it. So you can't really stop them, you know.
That's true.
So it's just at some point, like my quest log in Destiny 2 is like 20 quests deep, and I'm never going to finish it all because I don't care about completing the quests, right? I care about just like finding something to do, and if I can say, okay, I'm just going to finish this quest, then whatever.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad it's I hope people enjoy it again. I'm all for that Bungie magic as a shooter, and I always thought Destiny played well. I don't know, it just felt hugely wanky. I don't know if I'm allowed to use that word to describe something wanky. Just like up its own arse. But then Bungie started talking like that anyway, in my opinion. Like, oh, we're going to take over the world and all of that stuff. And, I bought into that shit and was like, yeah, when back in the Halo 2, Halo 3 days. But then when it started to continue, I was just like, I'm an adult.
Well, okay. And this is like, has been said multiple times of early Destiny development, especially with Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 and stuff like that. Like early days, at least, where upper management continuously made weird backwards decisions that didn't make sense to even like Bungie's own live team, the guys who basically handle all the content for the game as it's live, right? And the live team essentially saved Destiny 1.
Yeah, I think
the main team, while the main team was focused on Destiny 2, the live team was just hammering out content for Destiny 1 post expansion launch, post base game launch, into Taken King, and then into Rise of Iron. Yeah. And all the while the main dev team was working on Destiny 2. And you can tell that they basically learned nothing from the live team, because the live team made a bunch of really good changes that players were asking for,
and yet
Destiny
the same
2
mistakes were repeated. Yeah,
Destiny 2 launched with none of them.
That must be frustrating for a player.
For a player, it was frustrating. For the live team, I bet it was frustrating as hell. Seeing like all the hard work you put into appeasing the people playing the goddamn game just goes to waste because someone in upper management thinks that just because they made Halo at one point that they're hot shit and can get away with anything. and it's like been documented. I think
you're
it's
referring
been,
to.
I don't have the document, like the evidence with me, right? But this is what I've heard over many years of just observing like the development of Destiny and how it went on behind the scenes. Is like a lot of the upper management at Bungie just thinks that just because they made Halo, they can get away with whatever they want, even though it's been patently proven not true multiple times.
Yeah.
So
it's given us a good segue though. So obviously Bungie used to work with Activision, and speaking of Activision, I know that when we last chatted on episode 6, both of you were resoundingly impressed and thoroughly enjoyed the Call of Duty Modern Warfare beta, however you pronounce it, and then it came to light, and obviously there's been a bit of uproar about this on Reddit and other gaming communities, that the PlayStation 4 version of the game has an exclusive survival Spec Ops mode. Not exclusive for a week or a month, but for an entire
6 months.
fucking year.
whole fucking year. Yeah.
Right now, I get, and you hear it, back in the 360 gen, Microsoft did stuff like this. But it was never for a fucking year.
Yeah.
And this is a repeat of the Destiny scenario, right? And it's just why I'm intrinsically linking the two, is that there were exclusive strikes, I believe, and weapons that were kept exclusive to PlayStation 4, basically until the next game came out. And then by that point, everything else was so much more powerful that the weapons that were exclusive and the strike was just worthless to most people.
Yeah.
But this is an entire game mode, and
I think it's a mode within a mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
important to make that
survival
distinction.
portion of Spec Ops. Yeah.
So I saw the dev comment, hey, you're getting 99% of the game, but I don't know why it just, and I don't care. It's probably a mode I'd never fucking play, right? If I get COD, which
There better not be fucking achievements attached to it.
well, this is what I find odd is there can't be, right? Because then that's locking out player bases, and this isn't just an Xbox PC thing, by the way. This is PlayStation 4 exclusive. No PC gets it. Xbox doesn't get it until October of 2020. By which point the next
Call of
game
Duty is there.
will be launching.
Yeah,
So
and it's just ridiculous.
It strikes me as really odd, and I just don't understand why any gamer in nowadays in 2019, regardless of which team you're on,
Like stands for this shit.
That business practice, and it's interesting. My wider group of friends, who are not all super hardcore in their approach, very much read that and was just like, "No, fuck you. You're still charging me the same amount of money for less content. I mean, it doesn't matter how much less. It's not a pre-order pack. You are deliberately locking a player out at the behest of the platform holder."
And I feel like the fact that this COD is cross-play makes it even worse.
Yeah.
It just feels,
because now you're limiting an entire mode to one platform, so its player base is going to be lower than the combined total. It's like you're just hamstringing like PlayStation's end too, because now what happens if people just suddenly decide I don't like playing survival anymore? Well, now PlayStation's just going to be fucking stuck with only PS4 people, and they can't fill the lobby with Xbox or PC people who also want to hop on,
Yep.
Yeah, it's just,
I don't like it.
And
I don't like it.
And I know why they did it. It's not just because it's the exclusivity deal, right? It's because now that all the maps are free, there's nothing to give Sony exclusivity over except a mode. Because I mean, what else are they gonna fucking give? Like
skins,
right?
Yeah, skins.
But Sony wants something of actual value, which is why the map packs came a month early to PlayStation. Because that actual value, quote unquote, like gave people incentive to pick up a PlayStation and play Call of Duty there.
I don't know. It's just boo to this. Boo.
It sucked when Microsoft did it. It sucks now.
Yeah. fundamentally,
there's no excuse for this shit. Exclusive content for one platform, especially time-gating exclusive content, for that fucking long. No.
Yeah, it's
You
just
can
it
shove your
feels
shit
really, really. And you know, I have a.
I'm still gonna buy the game. I pre-ordered it on PC, and my money's already spent. But I still think it's bullshit.
See, I haven't pre-ordered it, and obviously, you know,
I have.
account sharing being what it is on Xbox, I may hold out some hope that my account sharing buddy may end up grabbing it. But I'm not like chomping at the bit. I mean, I really like the look of it, but again, I haven't played it. You know, if all my pals end up picking it up, yeah, I'll grab it and play it. You know, I've got the spare income to do that. It's just. It really bugs me supporting Activision in any way, shape, or form. It just makes me not want to do it out of principle alone.
The option, if you want to play Modern Warfare, the option is either to put up with it or not buy it.
Saying that,
not really.
I do know that there's a bunch of deals at the moment where you get the PC copy with some PC components and graphics cards and things like that.
Yeah,
and I'm planning on spending a good couple of grand on an upgrade for my rig, so maybe I'll get a copy for free. Who knows?
That would, even though it would be impossible to organise, one way to both vote with your wallet and still buy the game is to somehow get everyone to buy it on PC and Xbox.
Yeah, that would be hilarious, right? So the
then
lobby,
you get to get
the
your
lobby
cake
in
and eat it
PlayStation
too.
is like 4 guys, like, oh, I just want to play this. I somehow don't think that will happen with PlayStation's user base.
No, that'll never happen.
Yeah, probably not.
And again, a nice segue, and I know this isn't on our list of stuff to talk about, but it popped into my brain, and I can't believe we forgot to put it on the list. And that is PlayStation Now. I feel we should talk about this.
PlayStation
I can't.
Now.
I'm from Australia.
Oh, you're not allowed to talk about PlayStation Now, as you're in Australia?
Yeah, because Sony's like,
It's exclusive to countries now, bitch.
fuck the world. Don't worry about the fact that there's other countries in the world.
Remember how everyone was shitting on Xbox for the tier 2 countries?
Tier 3?
Yeah, I know.
I think that just speaks volumes to their current deployment in data centers and where they are deployed more than anything else.
Yeah, probably.
Because I mean, whilst that deal with Microsoft and Azure is out, I don't think it's perhaps in effect yet in terms of their next gen rollout for
XCloud will be launching in more locations than PSNow still can't even reach, despite 6 years later, being 6 years later. You know, almost 6 years later. It's been a long fucking time since the launch of this generation.
Yeah,
holy shit.
And the thing is, I'd happily subscribe to it too.
Yeah, I mean for $10 a month,
I'd happily subscribe to it, but they're
going to subscribe to
we
it.
don't want Australian dollar redos.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think, you know, it's cool that it's weird, right? So everyone's talks massively about how Game Pass is destroying the industry, killed your dog, ate your homework, whatever, and now we've got PlayStation Now, which has existed for far longer than Game Pass has. All right, for those that didn't know, has almost triple the games available on it, spanning PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 4.
No.
I know that they added
3, 4, and the PS2 on PS4 games.
So not native PS1, PS2 stuff. Only the stuff that made it across from some sort of backwards compatible transition-y type.
Yeah, it's those semi-remasters that they do, the PS2 on PS4 ones.
It's interesting, though, that PlayStation Now has existed for far longer and yet has been denounced as terrible, like, for their entire time. I don't think I'm being out of order saying that. I think that
and doesn't have as many subscribers.
It just doesn't have that push behind it. And obviously then they released the admittedly quite clever advert of everything dropping from the clouds, and surprised probably make it into a top 5 list of yours at some point, Ed, for clever PlayStation adverts, because it was quite good. And they've added, is it PlayStation 4 games, but only for a limited time. So stuff like God of War.
Like God of War for 3 months and shit like that.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Although you could easily beat God of War in 3 months, but
yeah, what's weird is I as a non PlayStation owner, I I have to admit I was a bit surprised at how terrible the software is on the PC. So I downloaded it and I encountered 1,000 different errors just trying to get the game launching. But admittedly, this had just been announced, so I presume that they were seeing some traffic. But it does make me raise my eyebrows a little bit at what that's going to be like for a bigger launch, shall we say, for a next generation console. But the software was so antiquated, and it just, and it's 720p only, and
really,
yeah, max for streaming, and that was it. So it's a bit odd.
Okay.
In case anyone watching on video by now is wondering where Cairo went, someone was at his door. So as you watched him walk away, just be glad he had pants on.
Well, the only streaming service that PlayStation has that I can speak to is Remote Play. So since iOS 13 came out, I thought I'd give it a go, and I synced up my DualShock 4 with my iPad and started playing Spider-Man a bit, and it was actually really good.
I saw a couple of videos.
That I had
no latency problems, nothing really too major.
Very, very minimal. Like more. I was at a friend's house yesterday, jumped on my phone, connected to my PS4 because he's got pretty good Wi-Fi, and started playing Street Fighter 5 on my phone with touch controls. And yeah, I was pulling off moves, and yeah, I was surprised. I wouldn't try and play anyone online like that, but just for to play arcade mode or training, and that was Street Fighter. That was quite good.
That's good.
So I'd hope that when Microsoft finally gets around to releasing their equivalent of Remote Play, which is Xbox home console streaming or whatever it's called, I would expect that it's at least as good as PS4's Remote Play, which does support 1080-60.
Interesting. I am looking forward to it. I mean, we know that the beta test is open as per the September episode of Inside Xbox. It's out.
If you're a poor person with Android.
Whoa. Let's not get into an Android versus the inferior platform iOS war going here, guys.
The inferior platform, huh? Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
How uninformed you are.
I don't know what you're talking about. I get full openness and the ability to do what I like with my platform. Enjoy your walled garden, bitches. This is a different podcast now. I didn't realise who I was working with.
But hey, if there's any device that can get me into Android, the Surface Duo might be it.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, Microsoft did their Surface event this week. A couple of things. One, I really hope that they let Panos Panay announce and reveal the Scarlett console, because that guy could sell me air that I am currently breathing for free. I don't know what it is, and some people have described it as cringy, but good God, the man is passionate about what he's building, and I
just love the fact that he wasn't even looking at a prompter for most of it.
He just wings it.
That was amazing.
Yeah, and the way that they revealed the Neo and the Duo, I mean, we all heard that they were coming, and we saw some little clips there where with the device they could kind of flip it, and they had one screen being the touch controls and the other screen being your game.
Yeah,
this is an exciting era of technology that we're living in.
It's good.
And
I still think the dual screen concept is kind of unnecessary, at least for a phone.
I liked their approach though, because we saw the Galaxy Fold, and then they tried to release it, and all of them broke, and it was really bad, and they've kind of pulled it back.
But I don't know, I dual screen at work and have been for the better part of a decade, and I can't go back to a single screen at work. It's impossible.
I just get a bigger screen. I hate having two screens taking up room on my desk.
because it doesn't work in the same way. Two screens from a pure productivity standpoint is
way
it's
better.
A game changer. I mean, I had 3 in my current PC setup, and now I admittedly have swapped them out. I've now got a 32:9 ultra wide monitor, which is effectively
that's all you need.
But it's effectively 2 27-inch monitors side by side.
Yeah, get an ultra wide monitor. Have one monitor. I don't understand having more than one.
Everyone can afford to buy.
I was about to say it's cheaper to buy 2 monitors than it is to buy one ultra wide.
But I mean, it depends, because I have a 32-inch 1440p monitor with plenty of screen real estate, and I never feel like I need a second monitor.
I love 2 monitors. It's so good.
I mean, I guess it just depends on the person. I don't really see a point into having 2 screens. It's still dumb to me. I'd rather just have improved multitasking on larger displays, larger touch displays, because iPad OS has now spoiled me on having all these apps able to be switched between like almost instantaneously in all these different ways and having like a bunch of shit side by side.
You guys have only just
overlaid.
got that ability?
Yeah, sure. Android tablets fucking suck.
I don't have an Android tablet. I have a fully capable Android phone. But it's interesting that the Surface Duo, which is the phone, which apparently Panos desperately tried not to use the word phone. And there are a couple of things that bug me with the design, like you have to open it to see who the fuck's calling you. There's some stuff there that there's no camera on the back at the moment. In my opinion, if they're going to make that and have that book, it needs a mini screen on the front to show your notifications, who's calling you, whatever.
Well, because the current, heard the current debate was about the camera thing was like, if it even makes sense to have an external camera on the back, because you can just flip the entire screen around 360 degrees and just use the front-facing camera.
Yeah, fold it the other way because it's got a 360 hinge. Have one side.
But then they'd want that camera to be really good then, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, then a lot of phones nowadays have like 12 megapixel freaking like FaceTime cameras. I'm going to call them FaceTime cameras because it's better than front-facing camera. More easily recognizable. But
what's
yeah,
FaceTime?
they have like
Sorry.
amazing. They have amazing like picture quality for having apertures that are essentially like shittier versions of the one on the back. But
yeah, I mean, my phone's got a really cool widescreen mode, and it's got a live focus mode. I mean, I and primarily one of the big things for me is photos. I take a lot of photos of my kids and stuff. So whilst I'm certainly interested as an ex-Windows phone guy back in the Lumia days, let's not go into it. All right, let's not go into that moment in life.
I remember about the whole app situation. I remember I think you, Nick, making fun of an article by The Verge saying the app situation on the Duo will be questionable at best because you're like, it's running Android.
It's got everything.
It's running
you
Android.
need.
But it has everything.
If you
Android
read
has.
the article, he was talking specifically about tablet experiences, and Android has shitty tablet apps. Like really,
no. He was talking about dual screen apps.
Yeah,
and that's when I then said that's still irrelevant because the 2 screens act independently of each other, so they don't need to be dual screen apps. So you can have your Skype call on the left side and your Excel sheet on the right side, and they act completely independently of each other. They don't need
that part. But he did
apps.
also mention and had a big section about tablet apps, and in that regard, he is right because Android has basically 0 tablet apps worth mentioning. 0.
My wife and my kids use an Android.
That's more
tablet,
a problem for Neo than Duo.
But yeah, I'd say it's definitely more a problem for the larger.
Oh yeah, the Neo definitely, because Windows
Neo
is even worse than Android for tablet apps.
Yeah, Windows tablet apps are pretty
like
questionable.
I get the whole point of the Surface, and I really like and appreciate what Microsoft does to make the Surface line as compelling as it is. But I will always buy an iPad if I want a tablet, because an iPad is just flat out a better tablet in all cases.
Well, that's again market share and that dictates what you go to because that's where the most developers are.
It's not even market share. Like Apple has the smallest piece of the pie in the mobile market, right? Of the two of the big competitors.
Mobile market, yeah.
On the mobile market, yeah. And the iPad is still a mobile OS. So iOS and Android is 30% Android, 30% iOS, 70% Android worldwide, right? But Apple still sees a lot of app exclusives and a lot more high quality apps than Android does.
It's because all those Apple customers are trying to just
because
always
Apple customers
buy it,
are willing
spend
to
more money,
fucking pay for it.
You know, no, I'm kidding.
So, speaking of devices and getting this train back on track.
Yeah, sorry everyone for the
both Cairo and I have a couple of new devices that we've acquired, I think, recently.
Can I talk about
Go
my
ahead
new
and start
device?
with yours.
I've got a new chair.
I got very excited during my holidays and finally got my Megadrive Mini.
The Sega fanboy returns.
How
This
many
fall.
Aussie dollars is that?
Yeah, that ended up costing me, because luckily I have a family member that works at JB Hi-Fi, so I got that for about $100 Australian.
That's not bad.
And it was interesting to see when I pulled it out. That's the Megadrive Mini there, and that's my Raspberry Pi case. So I thought, made me realize that the Raspberry Pi case
for the
is
people
actually,
who are on audio,
You're good.
the cases are essentially the same friggin' size. So
almost
both the
exactly
Raspberry
the same.
Pi and the Master
Yeah.
system. So the Mega Drive.
Is it good?
system.
Yeah. So, well, I haven't, like I said, because I've got the Raspberry Pi, I haven't bothered to use it, but I wanted it anyway.
I needed it.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
I'm just hoping now that we get the Dreamcast Mini.
Does it have
really want the
wireless
N64
controllers, or is it
Mini.
like short ass?
They're wired.
Like,
It's
three
not
foot-
not only is it wired controllers, it's the 3-button controller and not the 6, which is a bit of a shame.
Okay, but how long are the cords? Because the SNES and NES minis were like notorious for having like 3-foot-long cords for some fucking reason.
Pretty long. Pretty
Okay.
long. That's
It's about 6
pretty
feet.
good.
Looks about
Yeah.
6.
that looks pretty long.
It's not
I
bad.
love all these companies profiting off our nostalgia.
It's too bad
I'm
Microsoft
okay
was
with
never
it.
making an Xbox original mini.
Nah, they wouldn't be
Yeah,
able to
that's
sort
not
the
gonna happen.
licensing out. And I don't think for Xbox, for Microsoft, it just doesn't make sense because of their backwards compatibility program.
That's right.
They've got the
Yeah.
majority of the heavy hitters available on a device that the majority are going to
Yeah,
go
but then
for.
so has Nintendo many times over and still made the NES.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So honestly, like I don't really care about a mini. I just want OG Xbox Live to be turned on.
I miss OG Xbox Live. Get my old voice.
I really
changer
just
headset
want
out.
Halo on Scarlett, Halo 2 backwards compatibility, like the OG Halo 2. Turn on OG Xbox Live and let me play.
I got into
My
the.
thing is, I don't know how possible this is because they're never going to turn it on, obviously. But
Obviously.
could they not organize something or buy them out like XKai or XB Connect, rebrand it, and have it there for
the thing with that,
OG
And like
games?
build it into Xbox
I
Live.
don't think it will happen because the thing with that is it wasn't utilizing Xbox Live. It was tricking.
Yeah,
your
it was
Xbox
creating
into
a virtual
thinking it was
private network.
System linked.
No, that's right. But it still worked
It
and
was-
still works to this day.
Yeah, well, yeah, the network being what it is, but I just there's a difference between pretend hooking up some Xboxes and creating a virtual LAN as opposed to running servers that can host matchmaking and
Yeah.
that's purely a custom solution, for the real diehards that want to play it as it was.
Better than nothing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I got into the Reach Xbox sort of flight. I haven't had a chance to play it because one of their playtests was at 1 a.m. and frankly, I like.
Oh, I was about to ask you if you played it on PC or Xbox.
I really wanted to get into the PC version because the great thing about Master Chief Collection on PC that I've seen is that it supports 32x9, and any game that supports 32x9, it just looks and feels so good to play, especially at high frame rates. It's just glorious to enjoy. So I will definitely be picking it up on PC when it launches, but I have to just wait until it does. We'll see.
Yep.
We'll see. So you've got a Mega Drive
They've
Mini.
been going for a long time.
Yes, I think they're just working out and getting it 100% right. And from what I've read is that the lessons that they've learned in porting Reach across has led them to be able to take a number of shortcuts when it comes to porting the rest of the games. Because obviously on PC they're releasing at like $10 a pop as they get them done and uploaded to the system. So be interesting to see how it all plays out. But I do know.
Speaking of developing games for a long time.
Yeah.
No idea.
Speaking of developing games for a long time. Oh, yeah. That's a good segue. Well, I know. Well, before we dive into that one, because I know what you're talking about, I know you showed off the Mega Drive Mini, but you're not the only one that got a new toy recently.
Oh yeah.
So I know Cairo got a little new toy.
So over the past week, I got myself the Oculus Quest right here. It's charging right now. You can see by that orange light.
Yeah.
But
were you a VR naysayer before you picked this up?
Oh, the things I didn't say about VR and how badly it would turn out.
And have you taken that all back now? You've tried the first.
I'm taking most of it back. I'm taking most of it back.
It's interesting, isn't it?
So the thing is, like, I used to, and I still have a little bit of this opinion where VR, as it was, and as it still mainly is, because the Oculus Quest is the only one of its class right now. The only one really of its class. I don't think that the VR experience being tethered is in any way good for mass market adoption. And I always thought that as long as those things remain tethered, VR will ultimately fail.
Yep.
They will ultimately be not fail. Okay, fail's too hard. They will ultimately be made continue to be irrelevant to the majority.
There'll be a ceiling on its reach.
Yep. Yeah. I completely agree.
So when the Oculus Quest, I actually got introduced to the Oculus Quest this semester at university because I'm taking a chemistry class, and they do a VR experience to like teach people like chem equations and how things fit together and whatnot. And they use the Oculus Quest to teach it.
Amazing.
And that was my first experience with the headset. And the minute I realized I was putting on something that didn't need to be connected to anything, that was completely standalone and worked 100% right almost every time, right? I'm like, I need one.
I gotta get one of these.
And honestly, like without the tether, VR actually feels genuinely refreshing.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Like genuinely a new thing.
Yeah.
Like something that could, not something that will ever replace consoles, because people who like are that hopeful are like kidding themselves, or just trolls on Era. But you know, there's a lot of those. So, but it's definitely its own thing. Yeah. I think it could ever. I think if given the right push with the right technology and the right power, because as nice as this headset is, right, it. Still running on a Snapdragon 835 from like 3 years ago. Yep. An overclocked Snapdragon 835 to be fair, but an 835 nonetheless. And everything on mobile right now is running 855s or the Apple A13 chip, right? So much more powerful processors, much more powerful GPUs. But I mean, this thing fucking works on an old 3-year-old chip.
It's
and
amazing
it works
how good it can look, right? You kind of like, this is a phone, effectively. That's what it is. And
it's effectively a phone.
And I think the biggest thing for me, so I owned an Oculus Rift, the first consumer version. I played a lot of Elite Dangerous with the full hands-on throttle and stick. Absolutely phenomenal. And I used to have like an Arduino head tracker, so I used to Velcro this cable on top of my headset when I played. Yeah. So before I got VR, that's how I did head look, which was great. But it gave you that extra edge in a fight and stuff, because you could look up and track a ship as you were in battle. But when you jump into VR, it's the scale and the reach of everything. Just it completely changes it, and
it honestly enhances everything. The game.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
It enhances the game.
And I bought Beat Saber on the Rift, right? And Beat Saber is amazing. And then I played it. I saw the Quest got announced, and I was like, instant purchase, and I'm like, okay, Beat Saber, I'm pretty good at this, and it's without that cable, without constantly, one quarter of your brain checking where it is. Am I turned around? Am I dragging it over my feet?
You're not worried about it anymore,
and you're completely free. And
it feels because like I tried Super Hot VR back on the HTC Vive a couple years ago.
Yeah.
When it came out, and holy shit, the cable was fucking annoying.
Yeah,
because Super Hot VR is a game that demands that you turn around a lot. You're using the full space.
Yeah,
and having to be constantly reminded that there's a cable you could trip over, or it could accidentally disconnect itself from your PC because you just kicked it the wrong way. Yeah, and like, wow, this sucks. I don't really care how good it looks. This fucking sucks.
Yeah,
right. But with Super Hot VR on the Quest,
that's so good.
Instantly,
it's good.
Just It like you put it on, you get into the game, and everything just clicks for you.
Yeah, and
you don't have to worry. You don't. There's nothing in the back of your mind. You have to keep checking. There's just playing the fucking game, and that's how it should be.
I'm really glad that I kind of bet on this. So when the Quest came out, because it's Android, Android. Yeah. We could immediately mod it. So there's a great app, by the way. Remind me to link you. Called SideQuest. So you can stick.
Oh, I already have that. Yeah,
great, excellent.
So I've already fully modded mine.
It's brilliant.
I put custom Beat Saber tracks and everything.
But what's even better is I was like, okay, this is cool. Then someone released ALVR and RiftCat, which are basically streaming full fat PC VR from Steam or Oculus to the Quest. Now I tried this over a 5 gigahertz network. It works, but it's not great. Because latency when you're in virtual reality is very important. And I was like, I sold my Rift, and I was like, I'm betting that they're going to come up with a way of doing this properly, be it someone mods it to the extent that it's actually flawless, or that Oculus support it officially. And lo and behold, last week my wishes were granted, and my faith in humanity was restored when they announced not only finger tracking in VR for
but
Quest,
Oculus Link.
So no pads whatsoever. It just can duplicate your hands. But Oculus Link, which is a cable that will allow me to just plug it into my PC, and now I get the best of both worlds. It's exciting times for VR. And Nick, as someone who loves like those kind of drop in, drop out arcade kind of experiences from back in the day, get a Quest. It is the nuts. Plus, we could play some 3-player shenanigans and fuck about. It sounds fun to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
the
social. I honestly didn't expect the social experiences on VR to be as good as people kept saying. But VR chat, big screen, what is it? Rec room, paintball and rec room is fucking fun. It's really fun.
And because they, the big premise is VR, the experiences don't have to be these huge, deep 20-hour single player, because no one wants to spend that long in VR. They are short and sweet little moments. 100% when Oculus Link comes out, Cairo, you have to play Lone Echo. It is developed by Reddit.
Oh, I plan on getting a lot of fucking PC VR games once Oculus Link comes out.
It's absolutely amazing.
So, how much did you pay for your Quest, Cairo?
So, I paid $400 US for the 64 gigabyte model. The one downside, there's a couple downsides to the hardware. One is that I'm going to list three complaints that I have about the system itself. I don't like how front heavy it is. I think the headband needs more weight on the back, so it doesn't feel like everything's resting against my face. All right. The Halo, I've tried the Halo for like PSVR and I hate it. I just want a more weighty band.
One tip on that is I've got an
anchored power pack.
Yeah, and just stick a bit of Velcro on the back. But also the way that thing fits, there's like a little nubbin, and it's designed to pull right down below the sort of base of your skull. So as long as you've got it right below the base of your skull, and it ends up being a little bit looser than you thought it should, that usually for me sorts out the weight distribution because it pulls it right down behind your head.
I've been trying whatever I can. I mean, I've gotten used to it. So it doesn't really bother me that much. But no, the weight distribution on the band, Oculus 2 needs to fix that. That's just fair game. I mean, it's whatever. Number 2 is I don't like that. What was my number 2? Shit.
He said number 2.
Price?
Oh, expandable storage. I want a micro SD card slot.
Well, you say that, but at launch you could download every single title available.
Yeah, and it wouldn't fill up the space of the 64 gigabyte headset.
Didn't even come to
halfway.
But
at the same time, my Nintendo at least had the wisdom to include a micro SD card slot in a 32 gigabyte handheld. So I would like a micro SD card slot so I can get a 400 gigabyte
most
micro
Android
SD.
Phones.
Yeah, exactly.
SD card expansion.
I'd say Quest 2, whenever the hell that comes out. Put a slot in it. Put a micro SD card slot in it, so I can actually put a 400 gigabyte card in there, and then I basically never run out of space.
Quest is effectively Samsung Gear in an all-in-one piece of hardware,
but it's not as limited as Samsung Gear.
Yeah, because it's
the reason why.
Yeah.
It's using the same tracking system that they put in their PC VR headset of inside-out tracking, where it's got a shit ton of cameras on it, so it can actually track these two freaking controllers wherever they are in space. Right? You only have 3 degrees of freedom with the Gear VR and the Oculus Go, where you can only look around, but you can't interact with anything. You just got a button, right? You just got commands and stuff. But this is full 6 degrees of freedom.
Yeah, it's really,
because I'm on Amazon Australia at the moment, and the Quest 64 gig is 630 Australian, and the 128 gig is 790 Australian.
Damn.
So for the extra $160, probably better off.
Dude,
with the
honestly,
128.
And as someone with kids, they've got some really cool stuff on there. I try not to let my kid use it too much because there is.
You've got a screen. This close to your eyes.
But there's a great little thing called, and it's free. It's called Epic Roller Coasters, and if you've never been in VR before, you put something
That's a ride. Like, not a pun. That's not a pun that I just said. That I didn't mean to make that pun, but it is a ride. Like, it is a weird experience.
There are so many unique things and moments that I've had playing VR that I can't wait to see where they take the medium. And the Star Wars games are pretty cool. But the big things for me are the killer apps, and Beat Saber is a game that is a great excuse to just do some exercise. Apparently, 40 minutes in Beat Saber is something like the equivalent of a match of tennis. And it's just genuinely there's no achievements to hunt. There's no lengthy campaign. It's just about having an absolute blast. It's Guitar Hero meets dubstep, and it's just great fun.
But looks cool from what I've seen of it.
The whole bigger point about all this is that, and you see a lot of it coming down the pipeline where HTC just released their Vive Cosmos headset, which features inside-out tracking. So you don't need base stations and lighthouses everywhere. Great step in the right direction, because having that complicated, lengthy setup is a fucking nightmare for people who just want to fucking play a goddamn game, and good step in the right direction. But I think the Quest has convinced me that any headset that comes out from here on is worthless, at least to me, if it can't stand on its own.
Yeah, and I think I think Phil Spencer said something like that. He said VR for the living room, if it's got to have cables and a box and stuff,
then it's not viable.
Something else, then it's not ready. And I, after playing the Quest, I'm like, yeah, all right. And I kind of secretly, because obviously Microsoft have a number of shares in Facebook, I think. It'd be really interesting. And obviously back when the Oculus launched, it launched with an Xbox pad in the box. It'd be really interesting to see if their open approach nowadays to software and support and third-party services is going to extend to something like the Quest, where, that Oculus Link, you just plug it into the back of your Xbox, and then boom, away you go. What a wonderful world that would be. Be interesting.
It's funny. I would expect, or I wonder if Sony will go wireless for PSVR 2, because Sony are already in the business of mobile hardware.
Yeah.
So they seem positioned well to make a decent wireless VR headset.
The thing is, though, and this is raised up several times within the actual thread after the Oculus Connect 6 on era. A bunch of people, someone posted a thread asking, should PSVR 2 go the Oculus Quest route and be a standalone headset that doesn't need a PS5 to connect to it? And I'm like, that's right. Yeah, because that's going to be the future. Bar none, that's the future. You want people to adopt VR in droves? Either if you need a PS5, it has to be a fully wireless connection to the headset. Having to connect and set up PSVR is a fucking nightmare.
But it's not just that. It gives Sony a third, and I say third platform because the PS4 is going to hang around for a while.
Yeah.
But it gives them a third platform to sell software on, because there are going to be people that won't buy a PS4 or a PS5, but see the PSVR and go,
Like,
well, fuck, maybe I'll buy
they
that.
have the first party strength to be able to support a headset that's standalone, that doesn't need to be connected to a PS5. And imagine the selling point of like, hey, this headset connects wirelessly to your PS5, but you can also take it wherever the hell you want to go.
Yeah.
And it will play your games just fine without the PS5. Like,
maybe
like,
that will be their next PS Vita. You know, they won't go the handheld route. They'll go opposite to Nintendo and do a VR shindig.
I mean, it makes more sense. Like, the VR market is still ripe with potential.
Potential is definitely
in a way that the traditional market really isn't, or the handheld market really isn't.
Yeah.
Like, VR has the potential to be a really big segment, but what's been holding it back is just the technology at the time, at where we're living now, is so limited that the only real option, and expensive, that the only real option right now for the mass market consumer to have a decent VR experience is, like, even bottom of the barrel decent VR experience is the Oculus Quest.
Yeah.
There's no like actual market for this beyond the Quest right now, because no one else is doing what Oculus is trying to do. And like, I get you don't want to support Facebook or whatever, and you're just gonna like, people will look at this and be like, I don't want to have to give money to Mark Zuckerberg and support this. But it's like, there is no one else doing what Oculus is trying to do to get VR to where it needs to be, so that people actually invest in the platform.
Yeah.
I just find it strange that Sony's not. They're like, they own the VR space in consoles, and they make mobile phones, so they know mobile hardware, and they make PSVR, so they know VR. So it seems weird that they're not the front runner in this.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what happens, and 2020 is going to be a hell of a year. I'm really looking forward to it. But
2020 is going to be insane.
I'm glad that you're enjoying the Quest. It's nice to see another VR convert, because a lot of people poo-poo it without having really tried it. And the minute they try it, they're like, I was so wrong about everything to do with virtual reality. Oh my god!
It's like, it's the kind of experience, like, it's been a long time since I've actually like played on a system that makes me want other people to play on it with me. You know what I mean? Like on Xbox, every one of my friends has an Xbox. I don't really get that feeling because everyone's fucking there. But I don't really have a lot of people who play Switch with me. I don't really have a lot of people who play PS4 with me. Yeah. Right?
You kind of become an evangelist for your platform, don't you? You're like, dude, you got to get one.
Yeah, basically. It makes you like say, this is probably some of the coolest things you'll ever experience, and you need to buy this headset to experience them. Yeah. Like, I want to be able to play big screen and just fucking watch Netflix with my friends wherever the fuck they are in VR, because I know that there are people I've personally met who do that with their headset. Like Synth in the XboxEra Discord does that with his family.
Yeah, I've got to go to Atlanta next weekend for work, and part of me sitting there thinking, 9-hour flight. What do I want to take? I could take the Quest and be a fucking nerd sitting there on a flight. Fuck all of you. I'm going into my own little world.
Like that's the cool part about it. Is it's a viable option in order to do that,
but I could definitely take it and Beat Saber in my hotel room and stuff, because it's going to be a bit of a weird business trip. But outside of that, I'm also secretly hoping, because obviously they've announced the XCloud testing.
XCloud on Oculus.
Hoping that they're like, and then I can connect to hotel Wi-Fi and really try this stuff out and see if
imagine
it's good.
So you've used the Netflix app on Oculus Quest, right?
Yeah.
Where it like puts you on that virtual couch and you got that nice 80-inch screen in front of you just to watch Netflix on. Yeah. Imagine something like that, but it was all XCloud.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting on a nice virtual couch, just chilling, playing games on a giant ass screen in virtual reality. Not even caring about the world or anything around you, just playing games.
I'd be down for that. I'd be up for this.
I know. I've heard some people use big screen to like hook up like their Switch or their old consoles to their PC through pass-through or whatever, through pass-through PCI cards, and they're able to just play split screen Switch games or Wii games or GameCube games through VR on a giant, massive theater screen. It's just an experience you can only have with a headset.
Yep.
And there's just, I don't know. It's just I'm at the risk of sounding like Tim Apple. It's magic. It's magic. There's someone actually tossed the idea around of Facebook should talk to Apple about licensing out the A series chips, which are the fastest mobile chips on the market, like bar none.
Well, I don't know.
Like
We've got the Microsoft SQ1 now, haven't we?
Yeah, we
wait
do.
Wait to see what that's going to be like with AMD.
But Microsoft partner with the Microsoft to get the SQ1 on an Oculus Quest and on an Oculus Quest 2. Get that nice horsepower in there, you know.
It's going to be interesting.
But I just want to see an Oculus Quest with a powerful mobile chip, so it can actually like run like incredible titles.
Yeah,
you know.
It's
that's the one thing that I want in the next one. It's just more power.
The game, the race is on, Ed. You know, can you have an Oculus Quest by the time we next record a podcast? We'll find out. We'll find out. We'll all be sitting there like, so. Hey, everyone.
Not for that much.
To move on.
To move on, we were talking about lengthy development times, but talking about betas and things like that. Flight Simulator released a bunch of articles about their technology.
The dumps for that.
This is
the
power of the cloud realized, right?
Yeah.
This is nuts. So for those that don't know or haven't paid attention, Asobo, the developers of A Plague Tale, which came out earlier this year, have actually been working with Microsoft and Flight Simulator for the last half a decade. And they've developed technology that utilizes the satellite 3D imagery from Bing Maps. Yay, Bing has a purpose. To create their world, and the results of it, there's a lot of B-roll footage out there on YouTube, etc. Nothing short of astounding, right? I mean,
it looks ridiculous.
It looks bonkers. Volumetric clouds, you know.
It just looks real. It just flat out looks real.
It looks more real than real life at some points.
I mean, I don't want to bring up VR again, but it brought back, I'm in Google Earth VR and I'm flying across the world.
This is a great segue from VR into Flight Simulator.
But it really gave me these strong, because that as an experience, and it's nowhere near the fidelity of what Flight Simulator is looking like. I mean, I don't care about learning to fly a plane, but from a pure visual showcase standpoint, I can't wait to just try it and see what it looks like.
But the thing is,
looks amazing.
I mean, putting aside the graphics for a second, some of the stuff I was reading about, like the way they're incorporating Azure and the weather satellites and all that sort of stuff, and you know, they said that if there's a hurricane somewhere in the world, that will almost immediately then manifest in the game. So you could fly into the hurricane live in the game while it's happening.
That's phenomenal.
Just some crazy stuff that they're doing with it.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously 5-year relationship with Asobo. Whilst they have signed some deals with Focus Home Interactive, there's been, since those articles came out about Flight Sim, there's been a lot of, I guess Microsoft's gonna buy Asobo.
That's not happening.
Probably not.
They're a 200 plus size studio now, and they're pretty fucking expensive.
I would certainly say that if they've got them locked into an exclusive development agreement, there will be no real drive to purchase them. The only real reason I could see Microsoft doing that is if someone else made a move to. And then they would utilize their existing relationship to bid for it rather than lose the developer. That's the only real way I could see that happening. You've got to bear in mind, with all these Microsoft acquisitions, and they've been very, very clear in how they've messaged it, they're not out to purchase the last, AAA independent developers out there. They are looking for unique, creative voices running small, quick teams to diversify Game Pass. Yeah. 100%. And that's not to say that, if something doesn't make sense, they won't go for it, and they've left that open. But I don't see an acquisition of Asobo coming anytime soon. Whether we're going to see some acquisitions for XO19, I would say yeah. I just have no idea what they're going to be.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think for now, and for the next couple years, I think they're done.
I don't think they can afford to be done yet. I think they've.
There's rumours that they're not done, but I think for the time being they probably are.
Yeah. I think that they may have set themselves a bit of a trap here by starting to get into the habit of announcing acquisitions on stage. They've set an expectation, for all the really, really die-hard Xbox fans whooping and hollering for, corporations purchasing smaller companies.
Are you saying you're not a die-hard Xbox fan, John? Are you saying you're only here for the clicks?
Anyone that knows me, mate, we don't run any advertising. There ain't no clicks going on. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm a die-hard Xbox fan, but mostly because of in all honesty, mostly because of the friendships that gaming youth has driven, and it's enabled me to have some absolutely fantastic friends across the world that are brilliant people purely met through a gaming platform. And there's and I'm sure a lot of people can say that about Xbox, and that's probably why it's got such a fond place in my heart.
And a loyal following among a lot of people.
And a somewhat loyal following, yeah. But yeah,
I still think
it's an interesting one. Go on.
I still think they need to get over the obsession with announcing everything at shows.
Yeah, I would like to see some more of these kind of, and we've said this before. Let's inside Xbox. I've got nothing against the team, nothing against anyone that works on it. I just don't feel that the format in and of itself is particularly conducive to what they want. All right, you've got two or three types of consumer, right? You've got the ultra hardcore who just want to know about games. It's all they care about. Then you've got the ultra hardcore that for some reason are leaning towards that fanboy territory, and they're the ones that are like, yeah, I love Inside Xbox, it's great. I want to hear about the latest color controller and stuff like that. And then you've got your kind of like your audience that just, maybe they're there, maybe they're not. I just can't help but feel that they should have pre-recorded, get their segments in really tight, get everything done, 30 minutes or less. Done. Still have presenters, still have the people doing what they do. It just doesn't need to be this live, infomercial, Americanized thing. It's just my opinion.
It is an American show.
It is very American.
From an American company.
For a global audience.
But for a global audience, and I think that's it just feels like the fake jokes and the scripted moments. It's just the thing is, I think, know your audience is honestly what I'm saying. And I'm not saying this applies to everyone, and I'm certainly not criticizing the professionals that put their time into, because it's a very slick presentation. I just think it's overly drawn out, and it feels not genuine in its approach.
It's not just that, like they just make bizarre choices. Like they had it inside Xbox, and then a day later they announced the games with gold. It's like, why wouldn't you have announced those on Inside Xbox?
Yeah.
Like just silly little things like that. I don't know.
Bring
and
it
then,
all into one
like I said,
thing a month.
Yeah, like get over the obsession with waiting for E3 or Gamescom. There's no reason you can't just announce an acquisition on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, guess what?
I mean,
but then you lose what little showmanship that Xbox fucking has. And
well, then look at PlayStation.
The entire point.
We've purchased Insomniac. Have a nice day. Everyone's like,
yeah. But even the other publishers, like whether it's the 505 or THQ or whatever it is, they just say, hey, we acquired these guys. Hey, we acquired these guys. Just it doesn't have to wait for E3 and Gamescom. Like, I don't know.
It's I mean, what else does Xbox have to fucking announce on the goddamn stage at this point in time? I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline, obviously, but none of it they're willing to show us beyond.
Well, that's the other problem, isn't it?
Beyond the other stuff. And it's like I get why they don't want to show us anything, but it's been fucking forever. And people are dying for news.
People are dying, but we've got to bear in mind, right? For me, as a dad and as a guy that's working a lot lately, time seems to be flying by. Like, I can't believe that it's October already. You know, we've got 6 to 7 months until E3 is kind of here again, or you know, the rumor mill starting. Console announces and reveals usually happen at the beginning of the year, sort of. What was it? Was it February, March for the Xbox One? We're not far out here. What would blow my mind is XO19. They go, yeah, here's Scarlett. Here's what it looks like. It's out in March. Have a nice day. I'd be like, but it's not happening. It's not happening. There's no rumors for that. But it would certainly raise some eyebrows if they were to.
I mean, I'd fucking hate it if it launched in March, because I plan on pre-ordering it and picking it up at launch, and I'm not going to have money for it in March. So,
yeah,
Microsoft, don't fuck me like this.
It's interesting.
Well, I don't know. After seeing the Surface event, I have renewed hope for what Scarlett might be.
Yeah. With
Panos at the helm.
Well, it's just some of the nuggets they've dropped. You know, variable refresh rates, 120 FPS. If the genuine leap in CPU, which is people are saying that it's a genuine leap over what we had back in 2013 and what we have now, which is a notebook Jaguar CPU. If it's that big of a leap, it's balancing that system, and if we can get to the point where friends on console versus friends on PC are having, aside from maybe textures, a majoritively similar experience, you know, 60 FPS as a minimum for all games, yes, yeah, that is a console future I can get behind. If we're still
we'll never
seeing
have that 60 FPS minimum,
if we're still seeing developers stick to 30 and claim that it's so they can push graphical bells and whistles. I'm sorry, anyone that defends 30 FPS because they fancy graphics more, you are fundamentally wrong.
Like, okay, I'm hearing this, right? But every time I hear 60 FPS should be the default standard, and I agree with it. But every time I hear it, I just think when some games get updated for next gen, inevitably they're going to be fucking 30 FPS, and we're going to get stuck with this conversation all over again.
Because a lot of games are
not with Nintendo and not with Microsoft.
Maybe. I know
Nintendo
Bungie
and Microsoft both
they're going to put Destiny 2 over to fucking if Bungie ports Destiny 2 over to the new consoles, which is inevitable, it's going to happen. It's going to be 4K 30 FPS because they couldn't fucking bother.
It wouldn't be
to make it 4K 60 on Xbox One X.
It's 60 on PC. It's 60 on PC. It's the same dev environment.
I think it'll be 60.
Honestly, I would be stunned if a developer was like, yeah, it's 30 FPS. I'd just be like, why? What reason have it? Oh, we want to push the graphical prowess. No, fuck that. I want the game to feel like I'm not walking through freaking mud.
I want to play a fucking version of Destiny on a console that doesn't take a million goddamn years to load the menu.
Yeah. Well, that's thank God for the SSDs then in those new consoles.
Yeah, it's just what concerns me is SSDs are great, but you know they are more expensive than a standard mechanical hard drive, and you know at some point that SSD is going to be full.
The question is still in the air of whether or not it's going to be an NVMe drive on the I don't think it's going to be an NVMe drive, or it's going to be an M.2 SATA drive. The likelihood is probably going to be an M.2 SATA drive because those are more inexpensive.
This leads to an interesting thing, and I'm surprised that it wasn't a bigger deal wasn't made about it, because for me it was actually the biggest deal out of that Surface event, which gives me hope for the new Xbox. And I'm going to make a prediction here: the new Xbox is going to have a removable hard drive, like Sony's been doing for the last two consoles.
Oh yeah, because Microsoft
the new Surfaces. Right? Yeah, the new Surfaces have removable hard drives, which is unbelievable. So if they can get that hardware with a removable hard drive, there is zero reason Panos won't have a removable hard drive in the new Xbox.
It's exciting.
They can come up with a reason. So don't. Yeah, we're not out of the woods yet.
Stupid to. It would be stupid to.
It doesn't matter. Companies can come up with the most inane, stupid reasons for anything, and they'll still do it.
I'm betting that it won't have, but it will utilize USB-C to enable you to get a portable SSD or equivalent to achieve roughly similar transfer speeds.
Let us take out the hard drive.
I'm not against letting us take it, but I just don't think they will.
If I want to spend money on a 2 terabyte SSD, let me.
Yeah, one thing that really bugs me, and I've been more and more considering purchasing the Elite 2 controller. But I remember we were talking about what's the controller for the next gen going to look like, and we all kind of theorized it's going to have a dedicated screenshot share button a la PS4. But then I got annoyed because I was like, I don't want to drop 160 odd quid on a Elite 2 and not have a button. Why isn't it there now?
I mean, I don't really care about a share button because I don't take that many screenshots and gameplay videos to begin with.
But that's because you don't have the button.
Yeah, if you had the button.
I mean, I had the button when I had the chat pad. I had the button and I still didn't use it. So.
Yeah, I do.
I use the chat pad button. That's my shortcut right now.
This is what I think should be the minimum for next gen's controllers. Okay, same layout because the Xbox layout is genuine and has basically never needed to shift dramatically in the last almost 20 years. Right? At launch, if you're serious about crossplay with PC, bundle in the goddamn chat pad with every console. So at least console players have access to text chat in games. They can still fucking talk.
They'll just allow people to USB a keyboard. Hey, if
I know it won't happen, but I really, really think it's a dumb decision for it not to happen. Because people need an easy way to communicate, and they're obviously not going to fucking switch to game chat because no one does that anymore. Yeah. It's sad. But no one fucking does.
Party chat killed Xbox Live's community shit talking. In my opinion, I miss. Part of me's really looking forward to going back to PC. It didn't kill the shit
talking. What it did was it killed the counterbalance because since everyone was forced through game chat, you kind of had to learn how to deal with assholes in the lobby. You had to learn, and it made conversation with other people better because they weren't just assholes. You actually did meet genuinely good people, Yeah. But now that all the good people are like, we don't want to deal with the assholes. Oh, then the only people left in game chat are the assholes. So,
yeah.
I mean, what I do want to see is maybe like a button on the controller that allows you to do push to talk. Push to talk would be great on the next Xbox.
Is it necessary,
so you can still be in party chat. You can still be in party chat.
Oh,
but
yeah, okay. I see what you
talk to be in game chat. So you can actually communicate with your fucking team in a competitive game. Because people still don't fucking put on their goddamn mic in game chat.
Well, here's the thing. If they do add a bunch of share buttons, because my thing has always been, I even did a rough sketch once where you can just add 3 buttons on the ridge along the bottom, like a screenshot, video, and a broadcast button. But remember, they've got the accessories app that lets you change what the buttons do. So maybe for those people that want the push to talk, they can change one of those buttons that they never use and use it as a push to talk button.
Yeah, I can see that. Another thing that I personally want is gyro. Because gyro's on PS4 and Switch.
I'm done with
gyro aiming helps so much.
I don't know. I'm done with any. I really want Microsoft to just focus on grunt horsepower and games.
Okay, but you can do gyro in a controller and grunt horsepower in games, and you can do them both very well.
Well, the fact that the Elite 2 is coming out and that they're selling the Elite 2 as this big hoo-ha without gyro suggests to me that gyro is not coming.
Yeah, and do you want to know the best part about gyro with the DualShock 4? Text input. When you click on R3 and then it goes into gyro mode and you start entering the text with gyro, that's the best part about it.
That's pretty cool.
Makes it
because there's very few games on PS4 that actually make use of the gyro. On Switch, every shooter has gyro aiming, and it's like amazing. It is a game changer. It puts you more in line with mouse, straight up. It puts you. It makes you way more.
I haven't tried it, so I'll remain open to the possibility and the idea. Speaking of when we were talking about Quest, we were talking about drop in and drop out arcade experiences. I believe, Ed, you've done a wonderful top 5 for us again this week. What have you done this week?
Oh yeah, I was a little bit late this week.
There, John.
But my top 5 this week is my top 5 arcade games of all time. I think a lot of these would have been fairly obvious, but I wanted to include games because obviously a lot of arcade games obviously end up getting ported to console. So
True.
This was arcade games that released first in the arcade, and that's where I played them.
And these are
But
games
I
that
think-
you've
I
actually
think-
played, yeah? They're not like, oh...
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and of these, only one of them didn't get a home console port, and it's the first one. So my number 5 arcade game of all time is The Lost World, Jurassic Park, the light gun shooter. Now, a lot of these are going to be pretty old. Like, I know Cairo, there's every chance, hasn't played almost...
Kairo's
Any
like,
of
what's
these.
a light gun?
No, I know exactly what some of these terms are. Okay. Don't-
Well, I mean, light
Just checking.
gun shooters. Part of the reason light gun shooters have all but died off is because they evolved into first-person shooters.
Quite true. And as well,
Which
the
are-
technology to allow for a light gun doesn't exist anymore because you can't bounce that IR off of a LED screen.
Well, no, the light gun tech exists still, but it works differently. Obviously, it works with like the Wii sensor bar.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
mean. So, but it's inherently inferior to the old CRT method.
Yeah,
where the light gun would go.
even when you go to the arcades now and you see light gun games, you can actually see the little Wii style sensor bars in the top of the LCD cabinet. Like that's the tech that's used now. Like I've got Time Crisis 3 on PS3, and you get these 2 little sensors that sit in the top corners of your TV, and the gun obviously looks for those and aligns you based on where those are sitting. So the tech is still there, but yeah, it's not quite the same.
If
but
it makes you feel any better in VR, light gun games are awesome.
okay.
They are. Shooters in VR are fucking like intense. Because now,
well,
you know, zero aim assist means, oh my god, you better learn how to fucking shoot.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, I've never played the light gun game for. I loved light gun games as a kid. Jurassic Park, like the Lost World.
Jurassic
or whatever it was.
Park.
Yeah, the Lost
Jurassic
World.
Park,
It never got a
arcade.
home console port. It
Yeah,
was
I've
one
never
of the
played
only
it.
ones to not get a home console port, which was a shame
What about
because
like
it was.
what about like House of the Dead and stuff like that? I remember that being big in like.
Yeah, they were huge. And Virtua Cop, and like I adore House of the Dead and Virtua Cop, but just I don't know if I mean I know you haven't, Cairo, but John, did you play the Lost World at all, or you didn't play
it's
it?
not one I've had a chance on to play, which really bums
Yeah,
me out
it's-
because I've from our conversation I've heard it's genuinely great game. to
Oh,
play.
it's so good. Like it's one of the best uses of a movie license I've seen in any game, let alone a light gun game. Because AM3, who were the developers, had access to the original script for The Lost World. So there was stuff included in the game that wasn't actually in the final movie because it must have got cut at some stage through the movie's filming. But the developers, like, I read the book. It's actually the last book I read, The Lost World. And there was a dinosaur in that game called the Carnotaurus or something like that. And now in Michael Crichton's world, this dinosaur had the ability to camouflage. So it had chameleon-like abilities. And in the book, it effectively could turn invisible. So at night, for example, one of the coolest parts of the book was when they described the fact that the tyrannosaurs would not go near the Carnotaur area at night. They were too shit scared because these dinosaurs would go invisible. And it was always a shame that that dinosaur never made it into the movie because, as you can imagine, with the tech ILM were using to have CG dinosaurs, that would have been awesome in the movie.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
But Sega didn't know that the dinosaur had been cut from the movie and put it in the game.
That's wicked.
And so you have this boss fight with this Carnotaur where it's there and you're shooting it and then it just goes completely invisible. And so your screen's looking around for this dinosaur and then out of nowhere it becomes visible right in front of you and you got to start shooting it again. It was just, it was a really, really cool light gun boss fight. And just the game... Yeah, it was just, there was a lot of variety in it compared to most light gun games. It used the license really well. The visuals were unreal. Just, it was really, really good.
I've been thinking more and more about building, using like a Raspberry Pi, building like a light gun emulator box, because it's absolutely my favourite lost genre, so to speak.
Yeah.
And for those that are interested in light gun technology, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the mods that enable people to do this nowadays involve something like a sensor bar or X-Track, I think it's called, and it's not quite right. It feels a little bit like you're dragging a mouse cursor around the screen, but there's a guy called
and that's what it is,
I can't remember his name, but his surname is Sinden, and he's actually developed a technology, and it's on Kickstarter, and I think he got it successfully funded, called the Sinden light gun, and it's a 1-for-1 solution to that problem that is actually legit.
And it uses a Wii remote, doesn't it?
It uses similar technology, but it gets rid of that dragging a mouse cursor. It looks phenomenal. And there's a load of videos on YouTube, so certainly give it a Google. Sinden light gun. But yeah, so that's...
Well, I actually just got... It's funny, I was on eBay the other day, and I saw House of the Dead 2 and 3 return on Wii, which I didn't even know was a thing. So I just thought I'd throw a bid in, and I won it for 99 cents. So I was playing House of the Dead 2 the other day, actually, on the Wii. It was pretty cool. But again, you're seeing the cursor on the screen, and you're dragging it around. Yeah. So it's not quite the same experience it was on the Dreamcast, but it's still pretty cool.
Nice.
But speaking of Dreamcast, game number 4, Virtua Tennis.
Yeah.
I don't know I shouldn't even bother asking Cairo, but John, have you played Virtua Tennis?
I've definitely played Virtua Tennis at some point in my life. I don't know if it would have been the arcade version, though. I'm trying to drag my mind back through the years.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Virtua Tennis is still, for me anyway, the best tennis game, full stop, of all time. And the first Virtua Tennis, not 2, not 3, not 4.
The OG.
The first Virtua Tennis, it was, I don't think Sega had access to a lot of stuff within the ATP world, license-wise. They did what they could with the players they had. But the systems, the actual tennis system it used was just unbelievable. And to me, it's still the perfect example of simplicity and depth at the same time. That whole easy to pick up, difficult to master thing. Like you with Virtua Tennis, you had the full suite of tennis shots available to you with just the stick and 2 buttons. Most tennis games now, and mind you, the arcade sticks weren't analog.
Yeah.
They're digital sticks. So you were using a digital 8-way stick and 2 buttons, and yet you had access to the full suite of tennis shots, like drop shots, cross court, down the line, top spin, back spin, like the whole lot. Just unbelievable. But
easy to learn, difficult to master.
So we're now, most tennis games now, like Mario Tennis, let's say, you've got dedicated backspin, topspin, lob. You've got all dedicated buttons for those shots. Where with Virtua Tennis, it required you to use real tennis strategy, and you had to position your body the right way to get your backspin shot. You had to position your body the right way, or your character's body, to get the top spin and the cross court and all that sort of stuff. It was just, it was unbelievable. It was such a good game. Still the best tennis game.
Still the best tennis game.
Number 3, another Sega game, Virtua Fighter 2.
I think that's very much deserved on this list. It was a classic.
Yeah, Virtua. I mean, look, I adore the whole franchise, but Virtua Fighter 2, I think, was the game where Virtua Fighter, I feel, became the standard bearer for 3D fighters. So it was the one that was 60 FPS. It was the one that was high res. They added more depth to the fighting system. And just, I've always loved Virtua Fighter because to me, it always felt like the closest thing we'd ever get to a fighting sim.
Yeah.
It's not a fighting sim, but sorry, go.
No, I was going to say, it's weird to me, when you think of fighting games in today's world, it's Street Fighter, it's Tekken, it's maybe
Mortal Kombat
and Dead or Alive, and that's it. You don't hear Virtua Fighter brought up, except if people are talking in a nostalgic way, and it makes you wonder why that they let that series die when perhaps it really shouldn't have.
Well, I think with Virtua Fighter, I think its biggest strength is also its biggest weakness. Like, it goes for realism, which isn't what I think most people want these days. They want that pomp.
Yeah.
They want the flash. They want all that stuff. But the thing is, for me, it was the realism that made me love Virtua Fighter. Like, I liked the fact that it was almost a fighting sim. Like, just about every move in that game could theoretically be done by a professional fighter. Like, the only part of it that's wholly unrealistic are some of the jumps. Like, there are moments in that game where you can literally jump like 12 feet in the air. But outside of the crazy jumps, like, everything in it is a completely realistic move. And that's what I loved about it.
There was a game on... I'm trying to remember my youth here. There was a game on PlayStation that I always felt had sort of... It wasn't like Virtua Fighter, but it had these kind of realistic vibes. Bushido Blade? Anyone else?
I know that's a game, but I don't know if that was realistic. I never played it. So
I remember it being bastard hard, and I don't know, maybe my memory is completely not what it once was, but I remember it reminding me a little bit of that kind of really almost super serious ethos of like, this is very realistic, slice people and they're dead. But it was kind of similar. But Virtua, it'd be nice to see Virtua Fighter return. Sega to pick that franchise back up.
There's a few of us in the Discord that would like to see a Virtua Fighter 6. I mean, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. Hope it does, but maybe that's something that Sony or Microsoft could fund, which would be handy.
Yeah, I don't know. Killer Instincts, though, right? It's got to be at the top of the list.
Yeah.
For Microsoft. But
yeah,
we've talked about this before. Bring back AI.
You'd hope so. Still on the fighting train, my number 2 arcade game of all time is Street Fighter 2.
It's got to be on there, right?
Yeah, that's the game that made me fall in love with the fighting game genre. I just bought the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection on Switch as well. Like my 17th version of Street Fighter 2 now. I've got it on everything.
The most game of all time.
I have it. I just have... Street Fighter is easily my most bought and rebought game and franchise. Like, I have it on everything. Like, I have every version of Street Fighter pretty much you can think of. I've got it multiple times on single platforms. I've got it. I love Street Fighter. It's arguably the game that kickstarted the entire fighting game genre. It's just so infinitely replayable. Yeah, World Warrior, the first game's still a little bit slow.
Yeah.
Like, you're better off playing like Champion Edition or Turbo or Hyper Fighting or whatever it is because it's a bit quicker. But even the original Street Fighter 2 is still great to play to this day. And I still do. Now on the Switch.
I love how Cairo is like... what's an arcade game?
I don't really have a lot to add.
What's an arcade game?
I wasn't an arcade guy. We had like a fucking... Have you guys know what boomers is in the US, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I keep getting called a boomer on Twitter and in another Discord I'm in.
No. Like, okay, there's an actual like arcade chain that competes with another one called Dave and Buster's. It's called Boomers.
Yes, Dave. Oh well, Dave and Buster's I've heard of.
Dave and Buster's did Halo.
And like,
what's it called?
I wasn't really into the arcades. Like, if I wanted to play something, I went home because I didn't want to spend like a fuck ton of money on repeated
arcade games. The original microtransactions.
Yeah, that's where it all stemmed from, Jim Sterling. Get your facts straight.
Yeah, well, and maybe that's why microtransactions don't bother me that much.
Yeah,
because of how much money I used to pump into those machines. Like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, probably, I reckon, into Street Fighter 2, maybe more, just over the years. Just, yeah. So that sort of stuff never bothered me. But my favorite arcade game of all time, Daytona USA.
Yeah.
Everyone has to have played Daytona, even you, Cairo.
Cairo?
Yes.
Well, what was it again?
Daytona USA?
No.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't play terrible racing games.
Oh, okay. We'd like to apologise to all Daytona fans out there. We'd like to communicate that Cairo is being let go.
Daytona USA, and mind you, it was on sale on Xbox Live. On Xbox 360. So yeah, Xbox Live Arcade, $3 Australian the other day. So it was probably only $2 US. Backwards compatible on Xbox One. It is comfortably the best arcade game of all time.
Comfortably.
It came out in 1993, and it's still played to this day in arcades, mind you. You can still find it in arcades. It's in movie theater lobbies. It's in pool parlors. It's
an out-and-out classic.
It is timeless. I wrote this in my top 5 article on the website, but I still remember to this day the first time seeing Daytona USA, and it was borderline life-changing. Because nothing to that point in the arcades, not only was 3D a rarity, there was Virtua Racing, there was Virtua Fighter, the original, which were the flat polygons. Just there had nothing like that had been seen before at that time.
Wasn't the arcade machine it was massive, and it was like the back half of a car?
Yeah. The original cabinet, the very first one, well, at least the one that we got in Australia anyway, and because at the start they didn't have the linked 8-player ones. They came a little bit later. But the original cabinet that I saw was literally you were sitting in the Hornet car, or at least 3/4 of the car. And it was on hydraulics, and it would lift you and tilt you depending on how you were making your turns, and it would shake you if you had a crash or got bumped, and you were sitting in front of this huge rear projection screen. It was just, it was unbelievable. And back in 93, it was $4 Australian per game.
Wow.
In 93. So that would almost be like going to the arcades now and paying $10 a game.
That's crazy.
It was just...
Is that what does that $4 get you back then? A race?
Oh, well, I mean, the race, assuming you were good enough to get to the end of the race, it would have only been, 3 to 5 minutes, if
Amazing.
that. And that's all that $4 cost. But you know what? It
was worth it.
I think because everyone was so in awe of what they were looking at, no one gave a flying F about how much it cost.
Yeah.
Everyone was just happy to pump the $4 in to get a go of it. It was so good. I still play it today. Not as much as Gus would want me to, but I still play it today.
I think I've got it on my backwards compat list. I'll have to give it another download because I definitely grabbed it at some point in the 360's life cycle when it was on sale.
Yeah, and it does have very easy achievements. It's very easy to get the 200. And something else I love about the 360 version, I've still got my 360 racing wheel with the force feedback. So Daytona USA on 360 and PS3 has a karaoke mode, and what it does is you can put the car in auto drive, and just listen to the songs, and you can hide the lyrics or show the lyrics. But it's great. I love it for my kids because I sit the steering wheel in front of them, set it to karaoke mode so they think they're driving it properly, and they just drive around doing laps, and they absolutely love it. And they love it. Clever. They think they're playing the game. They think they're actually driving the car properly.
Classic.
It's
awesome. You hand your kid a pad with no batteries in it, and you play the Sega.
Yeah.
And you're secretly
That's
playing
great.
for them. Classic.
Yeah,
That's a good
really
top
good.
5, man. That is a good top 5. I like it. I miss arcades. I think I live near Southend in the UK, and we've got. On our seafront, it's renowned for its arcade scene, and they're still all there nowadays. We've got an amusement park down there and loads of arcade machines, and it was just simpler times back then. It really was. But we've got microtransactions now, so thanks arcades.
And the other lost aspect of arcades is the multiplayer aspect. So there was obviously no shit talking back then because you were standing next to the guy you were playing against. So you didn't want to get the shit kicked out of you if you were going to hang shit on him or whatever the case may be. And, you'd sit there and everyone would line up their coins.
Yeah. Next, I'm Bagsy, next go.
Yeah,
it was like an honour
rule
rule system. And people stuck to it, man. They stuck to that.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't jump
the honesty was real back then. It was good.
That was a good top 5. I think, we're an hour and a half now. There's a couple other things I wanted to mention before we close out.
Sort of maintenance things? Sort of maintenance things like Game Pass and Games with Gold.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So for those that are not in the know, Game Pass just had Jump Force, Ukulele, Panzer Dragoon Auto, definitely worth a playthrough on that one. Mm-hmm. Felix the Reaper, Dishonored 2, and World War Z, which I have to admit I dropped money on about 4 months ago at launch, played it once, haven't gone back to it. Sorry, KP, you know who you are. Mm-hmm. It's lots of great stuff coming out, and I think on Games with Gold we've got Tembo the Badass Elephant. Who was that developed by? It was developed by someone that...
the developers of Pokemon.
Yes, Game Freak. Thank you. I knew who the developer was. I just couldn't think. Friday the 13th, Bolt, which I have to admit I've got a real soft spot for the movie, so I might download that for my kids. And Ninja Gaiden 3. And on the subject of Ninja Gaiden 3, I believe it is the Razor's Edge version, not the original release. So it's a little bit better than what we got when Ninja Gaiden 3 first came out. Ninja Gaiden 3 really depressed me when it released because it's the only Ninja Gaiden I've not completed. Because as a huge Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden 2 fan, I was really hyped for 3, and then I think who's the crazy developer with the glasses? What's his name?
Itagaki?
Yeah, he wasn't he wasn't on the team for Ninja Gaiden 3, and I
don't think so. No,
I think it's rare to say that one person could be responsible for all the genius, but it was felt his lack of presence was felt in that game. It just wasn't.
Some of them claim sole responsibility, don't they?
Yes, some of them do. I don't want to be attacked. I don't want to be mobbed in the street by bringing up anything. But I guess we'll close things out. The last shout is to our sponsor, Hideo Kojima, for creating and hosting this podcast.
Yeah, sure. Hideo Kojima, the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah. Actually, since we were talking about Game Pass, for anyone who doesn't subscribe to a music streaming service, I think if you're a new Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, you get 6 months of Spotify.
That is a good
Game
deal.
Pass.
That is a good deal. I wish I could take advantage of it because I use Spotify all the time. But yeah, definitely worth it if you're into your tunes. I've got nothing but good things to say about Spotify from a consumer standpoint.
Well, it's smart because Spotify supports background music on Xbox, doesn't it?
It does. It doesn't support Snap because Snap's gone now. Sorry, Ed. And with that, I think we'll draw episode 7
Yeah.
to a close. Yep. Wow, we've been doing it for 14 weeks because we're bi-weekly.
The one about everything not Xbox.
Yeah, this was
the VR episode,
the VR arcade episode.
Yeah.
I don't know what we'll title this one. We'll figure something out. But yes, thank you for tuning in. As always, we appreciate any feedback. Definitely give us a like on YouTube and a subscription would be lovely. We do not run advertisements at all, so please, don't feel like you have to, but it would be nice to see our audience grow. And follow us and like us on Twitter. And as always, don't forget to check out XboxEra.com, where we are doing our very best to bring you lots of stuff and opinion pieces and reviews and previews and things like that. And that will only continue to grow. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thanks, everyone.
Catch you later.
See you later.